So I'm Chris. I've been playing since 2014. I have around 7,000 hours. And I'm around 2,500 elo on face and just under. Been varying around 25. I'm playing with my university team. We've had great success so far. I have some experience as a paid coach, and I've mostly done one-on-one lessons so far. And I mean, this is something new for me, like going through this with several players at a time. But I think the experience should be able to like translate over pretty much one by one. Yeah, this is me as an amateur coach. So aim or game sense is a very common question, especially among newer players. Uh, the opinions among the community are very split, but I think that both are important. Uh, I would say you should focus on both constantly, but you can have like you can switch focus between if you plateau with your aim, you can switch over to like watching videos on game sense, trying to focus on your game sense, learning new stuff. And you can always switch back to practicing game fully, and it should keep practicing game feel fresh and not overly repetitive if you keep switching between them. So sensitivity, there's like three ways of looking at sensitivity. There's two incorrect ones and there's one correct one. Sensitivity is will be referred to as your in-game sensitivity. We have DPI, which is dots per inch, and we have an EDPI, which is the only correct way of looking at sensitivity. EDPI is literally just your DPI multiplied by your sensitivity. So, should you play low or high sensitivity? Really doesn't matter. Like, some players prefer lower sensitivity, some players prefer higher. It's all personal preference, and the only thing I can suggest is for you to stick to a certain sensitivity in order to stay consistent and be able to practice and actually improve. Uh, Also, I have a really cool tip, I would say. If you're making any drastic switches to your sensitivity, I would say, like, if you have any planned breaks from CS for a while, you should do it right after the break because your muscle memory will be slightly weaker, or by weaker I mean like your aim won't be as good after a break anyways. So you might as well start by practicing when you come back from the break. I have a very good example of this. I went from 3000 EDPI to 1500, which is my current DPI, right after like a summer vacation of I think a month or something. So low sensitivity and high DPI or vice versa. So for example, your EDPI, let's say you're playing 1000 DPI and in-game sensitivity of 1.5, that's 1500 EDPI. But you can also get 1500 EDPI by playing an in-game sensitivity of 10 at 150 DPI, for example. It technically doesn't matter. There is pixel jumping in CS, but it's not as drastic unless you make it like to the most extreme thing you can do. So playing the max sensitivity in game with very low DPI will make you pixel jump. There is a video by I believe 3 Clicks Philip on that. I'll look it up. I'll find it later. Also, we have a fun fact. The average EDPI by pro players is around 870, which is it's not a high sensitivity. It's for me that would be a very low sensitivity. It depends how you look at it. So ways of practicing aim. The most common ways of practicing aim are aim maps, deathmatch, which can be either community free-for-all or official Valve deathmatch, and 1v1 arenas. I've left out third-party programs such as AimLab and Kovacs because there are very good alternatives to that, do the exact same thing in CS, which in my opinion are done much better. They will be linked later. So for aim maps, they're a very efficient way of practicing raw aim because it's a very controlled environment. However, they do usually lack human-like movement from the bot. I will list a few maps here. So we have the Recoil Master Spray Training by Ulitical. This. I'll link all of those maps at the end. We have the Aim Challenge, also by Elliptical. This is, in my opinion, a very good map because you can do like you can benchmark your aim, which will be mentioned in a bit. You can benchmark your aim on this. We have Aimbots, also by Elliptical, one of, if not the most popular map among CS players. Everyone knows about this map. It also has a benchmark mode, and it's also very good. We have the Wiprack recoil training by Wiprack. This is very similar to the first map, Recoil Master. It's just down to personal preference. We have the Wiprack Aim Trainer, also by Wiprack. Uh, this is the map which is, as I've mentioned before, an alternative to AimLab and Kovacs. It has a lot of different features. There is even a desktop app companion for this, which does actually even track your results for you, so you don't even have to do it yourself. We have the Wiprack Bots Trainer. This is pretty much an alternative to Aimbots. It has almost all the same features. It just looks different. We have the Fast Aim Reflex Training by Yolocus. This is my personal favorite map for practicing aim. It's a very old map, and I've used it pretty much almost since the release. Amazing map. I this is this is by far my favorite map in CS. The 360 Sound and Coordination Training by Yolocus. This is not that much of an aim map, even though it kind of is. It makes you practice your aim coordinated with your sound. So you hear a ding somewhere behind you, and you're gonna have to flick and aim then. We have the Blast Performance map by Blast. This is also a very good benchmark map. It's a very good pre-aim map. It covers a few different maps. It covers like I don't know. I think it's entering Mirage, A site, entering Banana on Inferno. There's a few other maps, but this is a very good benchmark map. Then we have the training bot aim Redux by Zool. There's also bot aim for V4D, V5 something as well. They're all pretty much the same maps. I've used this map extensively to practice op flicks because you have a very nice edge, so you can peek around the edge and practice flicking with the op. Then we have the procedurally generated training map by Scope GG. This is a very new map actually. This map got released last year. It's a very nice map. It's everything is procedurally generated. You can change a lot of different settings. You can benchmark yourself for points. It's very similar angles, I would say, to real maps, but it's always something new. It's always something you haven't seen before, and it forces you to adapt to something new. Here's the list of maps. I will also link all of these maps afterwards. I'll post it somewhere in Discord. Then we have Deathmatch. So Deathmatch is great at aiming for actual players who have human-like movement, but it's very inconsistent for practice because you'll be facing players at angles that you would never find someone in competitive matches. Like for example, if you're playing Deathmatch and Dust 2, you'll be facing players in T-spawn, which you will never be doing in actual matches. It's good, but it's also, inconsistent. Um, you will learn to adapt to new angles. It will be in a lot of different situations, holding angles, peeking angles. And you can play either official deathmatch mode or community servers such as warm-up server. I would recommend playing on community servers rather than official in-game deathmatch. And yeah, warm-up server or Vase is one of the best community-made FFA servers. And 1v1 arenas. They can also be found under community servers. And it's very controlled conditions because you'll always be playing, well, it's all the maps are very similar actually. There's always like some cover, there's sometimes some guns on the ground. and it's very controlled against real players, but the custom maps there won't really teach you how to translate that knowledge into playing actual matches. They don't resemble active duty maps, is what I mean. So progress tracking. It can be literally as simple as writing down the dates and scores of a certain benchmark map. And try to keep your benchmark scores in similar conditions. For example, like always do a benchmark before you do a practice session or after you do a practice session. Because that way you will actually be able to see how much your aim has improved. You can do that in like a spreadsheet or something. You can, if you're using the YPRAC map that I've mentioned, the YPRAC aim trainer, I believe it is. Uh, Everything will be logged in the program itself, and this is a very neat way of actually showing how much you've improved. For example, this is the challenge mode on aimbots. This is the YPRAC aim trainer, the blast performance map, procedurally generated training map. There's a lot of different options. Yeah, track progress in similar conditions. So there's a few do's and don'ts regarding aim practice. So you should practice regularly. Like practicing regularly is pretty much the only way of guaranteeing that you will actually improve. You should try out different styles of practice. So even though you might prefer uh, practicing in aim maps, you should sometimes switch it up and try to practice in community FFA just to get a feel for something new, for something different. Use different weapons in practice. That is, like, if you're only ever practicing pistols, you will pick up a rifle one day and it will feel like absolute shit. And you should warm up before games. So never burn yourself out. If you burn yourself out, that's literally defeats the entire purpose of playing a game and practicing for a game. Also, do not practice more than playing. It's a game after all. You should have some fun, not just practice 24 hours a day. Don't ignore your own mistakes. So, if you're practicing something, let's say you're practicing flicks and headshots, and if you miss a flick and go straight into a spray, that's a big mistake in practicing. If you do that in actual games, it's more than fine because in games your only objective is to kill the person as soon as possible. But when you're practicing, you should be forcing yourself to keep doing what you're trying to do. And don't warm up for too long because if you're warming up for too long, it's basically another practice session, and that's a very quick and efficient way of burning yourself out and like not wanting to practice ever again. When I practice aim, I keep my mouse like at stomach level and I try to flick on two axes, like this, and then I do like full on sprays with attempts at transferring, and I also do bursts. So where I try to hit a headshot at the start, and if I whiff the headshot, I try to switch into an actual spray. Which this is literally what you're going to be doing in most games, and you can practice only that, but sometimes you're gonna have to also literally only hit headshots. So you should switch it up between like different things. Um, so this is the map I prefer the most, where I also do the same thing, but bots are actually moving. So when I have to flick, there are different elevations when they jump and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and also it's very they're fairly close, so it's not too big of a deal if they're too far. Because some maps, the it's kind of hard to have a plain surface and bots very far and actually be aiming in them, because that's not really realistic. They're gonna be they're gonna have some cover. They're gonna have some. You're gonna be peeking them. They're gonna be peeking you. They're never gonna be standing in the middle of nowhere. Like if you want to practice, you can be practicing for half an hour. You can be practicing for an hour. It's just don't get yourself burned out. Because once you do, it's no longer fun. You're not gonna be having any motivation of doing that. Also, like if you're doing it properly, your arm is actually gonna start hurting after a while. I know my arm starts hurting after after 1,000 kills in this. If I do it like full on, if I try to kill as many bots as I can, my arm starts hurting. I actually have to stretch for that, and the time doesn't really matter. You can just don't do it for too short because if you do it too short, you're not developing new muscle memory. You're literally just warming up. It should take longer than a warm up, but it shouldn't take like 6 hours. Okay, well, I'd like to thank you all for coming here, listening. I do really hope you've learned something new.
Yeah.
If you come up with any other questions or have any feedback for me regarding all of this, I'm more than happy hearing it. At any point, you can literally DM me today, tomorrow, anytime. Say, hey, I think you should do this like this. I think this is better, or I I need help with this. And yeah, whatever you need, my DMs are open.